Setting boundaries for children, even very young children, is an important parental task. Preschoolers have limited attention spans and impulse control issues. They lack the mental maturity that allows them to set limits for themselves and to draw a mental connection between their behavior and the consequences of that behavior. Because they can maintain self-control for only short periods of time, young children need adults to set some safe, secure limits for them. Without these boundaries, life can be frightening to a small child. Our older kids need some limits too. Establishing clear boundaries is a simple way to reduce behavior problems and increase consistency with your discipline. Recent brain research indicates that brains continue to mature and develop throughout childhood and adolescence, and well into early adulthood. Scientists have identified a specific region of the brain called the amygdala that is responsible for immediate reactions, including fear and aggressive behavior. This region, which controls emotional responses, develops early. However, the cerebral cortex, the frontal lobe of the brain that controls reasoning and judgment and helps us think before we act, develops later. The cortex is still changing and maturing well into adulthood. Because the critical thinking part of the brain doesn't fully mature until around age 25, a teenager may have some analytical skills, but be lacking in common sense and impulse control. This fact explains why the same teenager who can breeze through complicated math problems will sometimes make incredibly immature decisions regarding drinking or following the speed limit. Teens today are offered so many choices regarding important issues like drug and alcohol use, sexual activity, and driving a car. Until their brains have reached maturity, they need some adult-imposed boundaries that will help them to make decisions that are not harmful to themselves or others. If two parents are present in the household, it is important that they get on the same page regarding the boundaries and rules that are established for their children. After agreeing on the rules together, parents should share them with their children. Keep in mind that kids should never be allowed to play one parent against the other in trying to bend the rules. A child with an 11 p.m. curfew may come to her father and say, "I'm 17 now, and mom thinks that 11 is too early for my curfew. Don't you agree?" Instead of allowing the child to pit the parents against one another, the father can respond by saying, "Your mother and I will discuss the matter. Until she and I decide differently, your curfew is still 11 o'clock. We care about you, and that's why we have a curfew for you." A child that wants to have her own cell phone may say, "Mama, I'm 8 years old and all my friends have their own cell phone. Dad agrees that I'm not too young and I can have my own cell phone now." Mom can respond by saying, "Your dad and I have already agreed that we will consider getting you your own phone on your 12th birthday, provided you show us you can handle the responsibility of having a phone. Your dad and I will discuss changing this decision, but for now, we are sticking to our original plan." When parents present a united front regarding the house rules, it provides children a sense of emotional security and stability. When establishing rules, we need to make sure that they are effective, fair, and consistently enforced. Two guidelines are: 1. Is the rule necessary, or is it primarily for the convenience of the adult who is making the rule? For example, an 8 o'clock bedtime for teenagers is probably more for the benefit of parents looking for nice, quiet evenings than it is for the sleep needs and health of the kids. 2. Does the rule have a consequence? Can it be enforced? And are you willing to enforce it? It is also important to avoid establishing too many rules. Young children can't remember a bunch of rules, and older children will ignore them. As one father said, "I figure that I've only got about 5 or 6 behavior tickets when it comes to setting limits for my child. I need to be careful how I spend them." A few simple rules, consistently enforced, provide the necessary boundaries that allow a child to feel secure and loved. For many families, those simple rules might cover such topics as curfew, letting us know where you are, drugs, sex, and no physical abuse allowed in the house. For younger children, the rules might include appropriate use of a smartphone and screen time, healthy habits and routines, chores, and respectful language. And the basic rules apply to everyone in the home, adults as well as kids. In setting rules, another pitfall to avoid is the fairness trap. It is natural for a younger child to complain that her rules are different than those established for her older brother. Ethan gets to stay up until 10:30, and I have to be in bed by 10. It's not fair. She can be told, it's not a matter of what's fair. I love you, and I have made my decisions on the basis of what I feel is best for you. Children differ greatly in impulse control and their ability to accept responsibility. It is both wise and appropriate for parents to adjust the rules and consequences to meet each child's unique needs. A primary goal in parenting is to assist children in their movement toward independent, responsible adulthood. And we can facilitate this process by increasingly allowing our older children to participate in the family decision-making process. Family meetings offer wonderful opportunities to conduct these discussions. If teenagers help establish the rules and the consequences for breaking those rules, they are much more likely to accept and to learn from the consequences of their irresponsible behavior. As a result, they learn to take responsibility for their lives. We can help our children to understand that in an adult world, the more responsible we are, the more freedom we get. While they may say that they prefer to live without adult-imposed rules, children interpret permissive parenting as a lack of love. Kids who live with few or no rules experience anxiety. Kids don't really want to be in charge. They want to know that you're in charge and that you're competent to help them stay in control. Establishing reasonable limits for our children, then monitoring, evaluating, and consistently enforcing them is hard work and is a labor of love. Today's world is one of incredible complexity, a place in which children are routinely confronted with behavioral decisions and choices that would have confused adults of a generation ago. In such a world, parental boundary setting is an important way to embrace children with unconditional love.